Uh, yeah, shall we begin? I think we're ready.
Sure. Starting and
Hi there. Welcome to the second ever episode of Drowning in Content, an extremely online podcast. I am Charlie, and we today have another wonderful special guest. Please introduce yourself for everybody.
hey, I'm Allison. I'm joining here out of London. Actually, I didn't know it was the second episode. That's really cool. Thanks for having me on. I know a bit about me. So originally I studied physics, and now I'm working on a business in the open banking space.
Awesome. Cool. Well, a little bit about me, I guess. I I don't know where to start. I work at a restaurant. I cook for a living, but I've been doing podcasts for about 4 years.
Oh, go.
And I don't know, musician. I'm on. The point of this show, the whole point of the show, obviously, is that I just find myself online all the time. I've kind of pushed myself into that like creator space. And so a lot of that revolves around Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. So I think like I spend so much time online, but people who spend a lot of time online, they tend to have their own circles or their own like little things. So my whole thing is I like to explore what other people are looking at and what they're thinking about, so that I don't have to go find it for myself. So you also have a podcast, is that correct?
I do, yeah. I don't really keep up with it as regularly as I should, but yeah, I kind of use it as like, I don't like the way people describe a journal as like, you kind of write about what you're thinking about, whatever you learned.
Totally.
I kind of use it like that, but I also, this is a little secret, but if there's someone I want to talk to that doesn't want to talk to me otherwise, I can kind of be like, come to the podcast, share your experience.
Yeah, it's really great for
and
that.
surprisingly, they'll end up talking to me. And unfortunately, what does happen is sometimes they come and talk to me, do like an hour-long episode of the podcast, and then afterwards they tell me, hey, I don't really want to put that out there, but my main goal of getting to talk to them has kind of succeeded. So
Yeah.
I guess at least a 50%.
Well, I think what happens with podcasts is someone's like, oh, if it's important enough to record it, like maybe like we can actually like they feel like they can really say something like important, and so you end up having like kind of more depth to these conversations, even if they're like, oh, hey, maybe don't put that out, but
Yeah.
still, yeah, no, there's some kind of gravitas to it. It's being recorded for posterity. We have to make it count, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you listen to a lot of other podcasts or anything?
I kind of do. Like, I listen to a lot of different stuff, depending, because I always have something playing in the background. Like, I do like listening to music. I just most of the time don't end up doing it. So it's usually either an audiobook or some podcast. And a lot of them end up being something that somebody recommended that specific episode, or it randomly pops up when I'm looking for something and I end up listening to it. So I think I'm much less kind of loyal to a specific podcast, and more so just like the format is quite a good thing to just have in the background while you're working.
Yeah, I feel a lot of the same way about Twitch streams, where it's long form, so if I miss something, I don't really miss out that much. And yeah, you can just put it on the side. Especially if I'm editing or doing computer work, I love that. Just have something to the side of me that I can tune in and out of at will. Yeah, and I find podcasts especially, I need like a specific time and place, because like I want to pay attention to a podcast. I want to have the time to give it, so I find like if I'm doing a long drive, I'll go on I'll listen to podcasts,
Hmm.
So I end up saving episodes for like months, and then drive for 4 hours and listen to three episodes
Fair,
maybe.
fair. I think for me, when I'm driving, I prefer like audiobooks because I like because usually because I don't being in London right now, I don't get to drive that much.
Yeah,
'Cause,
true.
like the US where you can just go on and on and on. There's mostly everywhere you have to take public transport, or it ends up being super expensive to go by car. So whenever I drive, usually like I've driving, I don't know, from Czech Republic to the UK, which is like 16, 20 hour drive.
Oh wow.
And I prefer having like one continuous piece going. So like I usually try to do like audiobooks for that kind of stuff. Because I don't like it, like, because when it stops and it's like, now there's the new thing, I'm like, I would spend like half an hour deciding what next. But because it's an audiobook, it just runs the whole time. So, you pick some, I don't know, 30, 40 hour audiobook, you play
Yeah.
it at double, 2.5 speed, and it's about perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I find like music where every like 4 minutes it changes, and maybe it's a song comes up. I don't want to listen to that right now, so I got to skip it, find something else to listen to or something. So yeah, podcast or audiobook, yeah, perfect. Where it's just continuous. Well, especially what I find audiobooks on like flights. I'll listen to an audiobook. I listen to like Michael Pollan, just nonfiction text.
Fair. On flights, I just work. Like flights are the best place to work because it's the one. If you're somewhere like not on a plane, people keep interrupting you. But on the plane, even though you technically have internet on a plane, kind of get away with being like, yeah, I can't respond. I'm on a plane,
Yeah.
and just ignoring it. So it's like the best place to work.
Oh yeah.
Like if I could just like whenever I have like long stretches of continuous work to do, I could just hop on a plane and just fly the whole time. Like I would get so much done.
So okay, so remind me. I know you filled out the form, and I'm sorry, I'm not totally prepared. But so speaking of the internet, social media, if you're online, if where do you tend to find yourself? What are you exploring?
So well, let me check my screen time.
Oh yeah,
That's
let's
one
see.
really good feature of Mac. I think I have, but like 2 days ago it was like 24 hours. Yesterday it was 22 hours. I spent too much time. Uh,
Wow.
what's interesting about it. It's like a lot of it is more kind of like work, uh, or I call it work. But yeah, so it's across all devices. Uh, Yesterday, wait, it's not loading properly. So they wait a few weeks instead of days. This week. There we go. Yeah, it's like Safari. What on Safari? Yeah, it's like it's Twitter. It's YouTube playing something in the background. It's Spotify playing something just continuously, always. I think like I quite like YouTube if I'm paying a bit more attention to it.
Yeah.
Because with doing because the new business that I'm working on right now, I like because we're looking at open banking, which I'm somewhat new to. Like obviously, I have a pretty solid finance background, but I'm so new to it, so I'm listening to a lot of interviews and podcasts with people in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's someone where I'm like, I really want to listen to this, I will play it on YouTube just because that will kind of make me watch it more. So I'll be like paying a bit more attention. If it's someone kind of more lower effort, I'll just have it as like Spotify or something. And then I've like say founders network through Twitter, that I'm kind of making myself use Twitter more because I'm like, this is what everybody's using. It's
Yeah.
like it's so I've gotten so many useful connections from just using Twitter that I've like it's just you have to kind of.
It's really
weird.
true. Yeah. And it's especially with all the stuff Elon's been doing, it kind of Twitter. I mean, maybe that much, but
Well, users won't pay, right? It's like if as a content creator, who gives a shit? And also, Meta's now gonna make you pay. So it's like, what's the difference? Like the same paid format that Twitter came out with, like Meta came out whatever, like 3 or 4 weeks later.
yeah,
So
the
like,
blue,
it's the same thing.
yeah. Yeah, I found myself like getting into Twitch. I found like most Twitch streamers, or not most, but a lot of Twitch streamers just advertise on Twitter, or you form those connections on Twitter, and it's crazy. Just kind of like chatting, just posting stuff. I've gained a lot of followers now. Are most of those followers like brand? They say they start hitting me up in the DMs. They're like, "Oh, do you need graphics made?" I'm like, "No, thank you." I get a lot of people like that, but yeah, it clearly is easy to see things and follow things. I think that's cool, or easy to reach people. I haven't found that kind of. I mean, I post on Instagram as well, but just not as much. I feel like I'm lazy with Instagram.
I don't know. I feel like Instagram, I purely feel like I use it for DMs. Because, like, thing is, the weird part about this is I really like photography. I do it for, but I'm just like, I can't, like, Boston on fucking Instagram, I can't be bothered. Like, I'll send it to some friends if they want it. I'll make prints or something. Instagram, I can't fucking be bothered.
Yeah, I was like watching tutorials, like how to post like the double picture, the double frame, and I was like, what? I'm gonna take this picture into Photoshop and like cut it and just to post it on Instagram. No, I don't think so. It's it's like the people who can curate their time or their feed or whatever, and they have they make the the tiled pictures. That was like, you're spending too much time. I think, like, that's cool, but
well, if they enjoy it, who cares, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm critical. I'm not critical. I'm judgy, I guess.
Fair enough.
Okay, so but I've been getting back into, or getting onto Twitter. I had Twitter since like 2008. And I just didn't understand how to use it, I guess, until recently. I'm like, oh, okay, which is it's so weird.
Yeah.
But
I've had Twitter for ages, but I also haven't been using it that much until like a couple of years ago. Because like the format of it is quite interesting in the way where like if you just randomly tweet shit, it's like not that useful. But if you follow, like, because we're doing open back, because we're doing a startup, because of what we're doing,
right.
stuff like that, if you follow people in the space, they will tweet out shit that's relevant. You will reply to it asking questions. You might learn shit. You will occasionally post stuff. Like it's like a lot of it's about, how do I put this? It's like people are kind of used to throwing stuff out there when they learn something, even if it's not like fully formed. Because
Right.
on Twitter, like most people just don't post stuff that's fully formed. It ends up being a very good place to like just find out about shit. You're probably not gonna like learn a whole new skill, but you might find out about a skill that you wouldn't have known about otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think there's the pipeline is like you learn about something on Twitter and then you follow it up on YouTube, and then you'll learn everything about it on YouTube, and then I don't know, maybe you find someone who streams that on Twitch or something like that. Twitch is always the bottom of the funnel, I guess. It's the place people
I think
end up.
a lot of the like live streaming content creators have a very different relationship with their audience than basically any other content creator.
It's very
right, because if you think about it, like the interact, like I remember who was it? There's some major Twitch streamer that ended up coming over to YouTube. I think it starts with L or something.
Ludwig?
Yeah. He ended up being interviewed by someone where it was not people who are like in the live streaming space. So they ended up talking a lot about the actual like parasocial relationships that forms with the chat and things like that. It was very interesting to like kind of hear how radically different it is to basically any other audience anybody has anywhere else.
Yeah, because it's so immediate. I think people, you're responding to them directly. So I think they form that kind of connection. I mean, I even see it in my chat, as limited as it is, and it's like, this is weird. This is a weird thing you're asking me now, but yeah, it can be intense. Spending a lot of time in that space. I've seen it.
Fair. So you live stream yourself?
Yeah, I do. I have a Twitch channel. So that's kind of why I got onto Twitter, was because I was following a lot of Twitch streamers, and then I wanted, and then I started following the people that huddle around those, those kind of bubbles around those streamers. So, yeah, which is cool. You can kind of directly talk to this community of like-minded people. And they're like, oh yeah, kind of recognize you. So that part's nice, but yeah, it does get kind of where people are like, oh, I love and defend this live streamer so much. He loves me, like he understands me. It's like, dude, there's 26,000 people in the chat or whatever. I mean, you're just one person, but
yeah. I think what's very interesting is, because I remember, because I don't really consume Twitch. Remember when I was much younger, I used to, and I remember it was mostly just like video game stuff. So I would like occasionally watch it, because I used to like StarCraft. The main games for it were always streamed through Twitch, and I noticed that kind of more recently, a lot of the live content has pivoted more towards kind of like live conversational stuff, where you end up having a lot of like almost basically like a live podcast type setting, or a lot of streaming. And I think that's a lot more of a interesting integration in how that pivots, because like, cool, people playing games live, like that's very obvious. Kind of, I get why people would want to watch that.
Yeah.
But the much wider like mass appeal of it, very much I feel like is with the kind of formats like a live podcast, that type of stuff.
Yeah. No, I think it's I mean, I think the two trends are probably related, that podcasts just continue to explode, and people are watching live streams. They want that kind of long form content, maybe just in their ear. Like, I listen to Twitch streams at work as if it was a podcast, essentially. I just, put my phone over in the corner and have my AirPods in. So, yeah, I don't know what I don't want to be I don't want to draw any like false conclusions or anything, but I think people will like that kind of long form thing where they can get invested.
Yeah,
it's
very interesting how people because a lot of people talk about how, like, the younger people nowadays don't have a long attention span, and I'm 23, so I would very much include it in the people they talk about. But you notice that while a lot of, like, you'll see so many fucking people scrolling through TikTok or Reels or YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, Shorts.
Through Shorts, and those are super short. But if you look at what a lot of people then end up consuming after, it is very, very long form stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is, like, I think almost every podcast nowadays has to advertise, like, making short clips out of their podcast to actually have people watch it.
Definitely.
But then so many people do end up actually watching the full thing if they find it interesting. So I feel like short form, in a way, isn't just like an entertainment tool. It's very much effective at being a good discovery tool, because a lot of the algorithms you have, for example, with like with TikTok's algorithm, it's like renowned as being like very fucking good at what it does, which makes it an amazing discovery tool.
Yeah.
Right. It's like Google is great at finding stuff you're searching for, but TikTok stuff you didn't know you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Which is kind of impressive. As much the issues as it has, the aspect of like, it is kind of a like discovery tool to find long form stuff that you actually want to see, which is really cool.
Yeah. I saw that video. I think that was it Vox or something. They created a false TikTok account, and then they just went through the For You page, and just depending on the timing, how long they spent on certain content, it would feed more of that content, which is just, I mean, insane. Just, fractions of a second it's using to calculate.
Yeah.
So they
It's very advanced. Like you see, there's people that are just trying to there's actual research papers on the TikTok algorithm trying to figure out how exactly it works. It's crazy.
Yeah, we certainly the other podcasts I did yesterday. We do clips for that, and it's that's part of the problem I have with like Twitch streaming and stuff, is like I like making the long form part, but making the short form part is really hard for me. So
They're good to automate out a lot of it, right? Because short form, in its essence, if it's for a podcast, right, it's you take the script, so you take you transcribe it, you look at the script, you find the interesting parts of the script, and you cut it based on that, and that is like 98% of the work. And there's tools that can fully automate that.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm gonna write this down.
It's like one of the better ones is called, I think, Opus Clips.
Sorry, what was it?
Opus Clips. OPUS Clips.
Yeah, I use something called video.ai, which like we can talk about how AI is being used in all kinds of spaces, but what it does is tries to find, so it essentially does that just automated, but it like transcribes it and then finds what it thinks might be an interesting part, which to varying degrees of success, but it's pretty good. I find it best if you...
The thing is, like, it still needs
kind of free trial thing, so they give you like the limited amount of time per month.
Okay.
But yeah, you can video. Yeah. Anyway, so you said you do like to listen to YouTube or watch YouTube, I guess. Are there any people in particular, any channels?
So I find, like, because I'm working on startups, I do businesses, and like my other areas, finance, I do quite heavily skew towards that.
Okay.
But one thing I find, like, what I find really impressive is the way some people leverage content creation for very traditional businesses. So I end up watching more of those people, not to actually like listen to what they say in that sense, because maybe I'm like less interested in it, but in the sense of how are they actually using this to leverage it into what they're building.
Yeah.
Find that aspect of it really interesting. So a lot of, like, I'll mention a few, but like a lot of them I end up watching because I find it really cool how they're basically leveraging it, what they're building into it. I think one of them, which is probably the most impressive, is there's a guy called Allison who built it's basically a private equity firm, right? So investing into companies and then growing them.
Right.
Like, actually, technically it's a holding company type structure, but besides the point,
okay.
Basically private equity firm. And he's using social media following to get deal flow getting deal flow through a YouTube channel and like Twitter and shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? How does that happen?
It's I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it really is, I think, the state of a lot of business, or all kinds of business now, where it's like if you have the social media presence, then you have the kind of name recognition. What was his name again? What was the first part?
Alex Hormozi.
Alex, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another, I forget the name of the channel. I can try and look it up. But there's someone who's like, he deals in real estate. He and his business partner. So they.
Oh yeah, you mean the New York guy who does like tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars with the New York real estate?
I think
he
there's
makes, like, videos on it.
There's probably a few different guys, but yes, that is one of them. I've seen that guy as well with that.
Yeah.
Because
there's some that just make videos and that's their entire model, but there's two that I've seen where the model is actually using that shit to get deal flow, which is crazy. Because I remember seeing so there was someone interviewing him, and he was talking about how, I don't remember the exact numbers, but basically he sold like a $50-60 million penthouse because he made a video about it, and some billionaire's kids saw it and they were like, I want that. So they called him right after watching the video and they closed the deal on the phone, basically.
Wow. That's
so he made 4% commission on, let's say, $50 million. So he made $1 million, right, just right there off a video.
That's incredible. I mean, yeah. I think maybe I need to change my mindset. I'm definitely the starving artist type of YouTuber. So like, I gotta get my money up, not my funny up.
Well, to be fair, like you also have people like Mr. Beast who the way they've built their empire around it is also fucking insane.
Oh my god!
Like his entire thing is worth way more than $1 billion at this point.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Yeah, and he claims he just puts all the money from the videos right back into the videos, and I'm like, well, you wouldn't you? I mean, they keep making you money.
It's the marketing, like the advertising value of what he does is insane. It's like people can't keep up with how much his content is worth, right? Because like an ad spot for him, it's like at this point even like bigger than a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah,
people can't like the advertising budgets for social media right now for a lot of companies are smaller. They put into the entire social media thing than one of his ads is worth.
Jeez.
And these are like Fortune 500 companies, right? Like
yeah,
billions and billions and billions of dollars of cash flow, but their whole social media budget is less than what one deal at him is like worth.
Yeah, I saw. I don't know if it was his most recent, but one a few days ago was going to houses from $1 to $100 million, and it had Miranda Cosgrove and Justin Timberlake just in the show in the house. It was incredible. Yeah, I mean, so I've watched a lot of kind of things delving into his content, and he really did just he and his friends, they just sat and tried to figure out what is the best YouTube video, like in all metrics. Or
it's interesting to see how even now like his formats are really changing. Remember, again, I watched too many podcast interviews, but there was an interview he's done with I don't know, the icon of their YouTube channel is like yellow, and it's like two guys, and they're like videographers who have a big YouTube channel, and now all they do is like interview content people. But because of their like classic movie background, they ended up talking a lot about like the traditional story trope, and how that's important to get audience engagement. And you can see how literally after that interview, so much of his content has shifted a lot more towards actually having that kind of format. Wow. So he's still like significantly improving even now. Right? Yeah. So he's the best out there, and it's still like there's still considerable improvements to be made. So if someone just learns what he's done, and there's like plenty of space to improve on.
It's incredible how he can see like how every aspect, just every little detail increases retention, and you can tell like how it's been kind of like streamlined, and like the thing now he does with or that his editors do with they're always on the CGI globe, and for some reason a CGI tactical nuke blows up the city they were just in, and it's now you can see that in the last like 3 or 4 videos, and it's now there's space lasers and stuff too. It's like, okay, so they found something that people like. It increases retention and keeps the story moving forward, and yeah.
A lot to learn from stuff like this. It's like there's an aspect of just consuming it, because some of the stuff ends up being quite patient aspect, right? Like if you watch, actually Alex Hormozy, his videos are actually, there's a lot to learn from them as well. But with a lot of these, what I find really interesting is what you can learn from it when you're not just watching it as like the consumer, but you actually try to think about how does it work, what can I change, what will I do better. Which is a bad habit of mine that I do all the time. It's like, how do I do this better? And yeah, it's very interesting the way different people work with a lot of the different like relationships they have with different audiences, the way they work with retention, stuff like that. Because for me, right, because I'm a lot more, I've got my own business and I have a new one and whatever. One of the things that I really need to get good at is marketing. And branding and all of that, and I studied physics. I know how to I code in my spare time, that type of shit. Like I'm pretty technical as a person, so spending a ton of time on marketing, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to. This is annoying, but I also understand just how important it is to kind of get it and learn it.
Yeah,
and consuming a lot of this type of stuff as like, I don't want to say free time, because I'm mostly working all that anyway, but as like the addition to work.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, it does make me a bit less productive than if I just put on music and just focused on the work a bit more. Although a lot of my work is just talking to people, so whatever. I'm going on a tangent now. But there's a lot to kind of learn from a lot of these approaches for your bullshit, right? A lot of people, especially in the US, talk about, oh, I want to start a small business, blah blah. If you actually watch a lot of this content to try to learn from how they capture people's attention, how they work with it, that's applicable everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you, for some reason, decide to pay for a billboard because you're crazy, or you want to market through content or whatever else. Like there's a lot to understand about how a lot of this stuff is done. That ends up being quite useful. Just, don't watch it all the time.
Yeah, I definitely, I'll go it's like, so I treat Twitch kind of like you said you treat your podcast, where it's kind of like a journal, so I can just kind of rattle off for like 3 hours, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing for the day. So it's not like something I necessarily expect to grow super quickly, but I was like, okay, I do want to learn how to do, how to market myself a little bit more, get myself more out there, so when I actually did, and again, AI and the stuff AI can do, I just asked Chat GPT what I should do. And I was like, here's my schedule, I work full time and things like this, when should I do these things? And it's like, oh yeah, here's, you should post like 3 times a week, and here's how you can fit it into your schedule. And like, oh wow, okay. And then I mean, the problem is then making that content and being on time and consistent. But yeah, I found that very useful. And it like I asked like I came up with the idea for this podcast, but I did ask ChatGPT. I'm like, so I find it as a tool very useful for that kind of thing, where I have trouble thinking in that marketing sense, but it can kind of give me the bare bones.
Yeah. It's very interesting for a lot of these applications. I think there's a super, actually, just another tangent. There's a super interesting research study that I've seen like 2-3 days ago, maybe less than that, which was looking at how well like models like GPT respond based on how nice to them you are.
Interesting.
And it found that if you're like, if let's say it's literally like as a people try to stop it from doing stuff, right? The developers. Yeah. And what's very interesting is that by being nicer to it, like being very nice and be like, please, oh, you're doing such a great job, it is so much more willing to just break all of its shit just to do whatever you ask it to do, and it does a much better job in like the quality of responses. Like
Interesting.
there was some like test that they're putting it through, and on one where it was just asked super directly, no additional instructions, just like, hey, what is this, blah blah blah. It like 35% on that test, and when they kind of added, we're like, oh, you're doing such a good job, nice, blah blah blah. It got 80%,
Huh. That's okay.
which is very cool.
That's interesting. I do find myself typing please and thank you to the, like, or like
There you go. That's a start.
it's like it gives me the response. I'm like, oh great, now could you just rewrite it like this, please? You know. But I do
Well,
find
apparently it makes it a lot more effective.
I do find it is what you put into it. I mean, you can't just expect it to give you a magical answer the first time. But I try and massage it, give it as much information as possible. Have you messed around at all or used at all any of the like AI image generation software or anything, any of that?
Yeah, a lot. Actually joining quite a bit, for a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, there's I have reached a point because I kind of got like I was messing around a lot with my journey, and I have a friend of mine who I just text with all the time, and instead of using like stickers or shit in responses, I would just quickly tell like Midjourney to generate me one, and I would have like the start prompt be always the same, which basically described exactly what she looks like.
Oh wow.
So whichever thing I told it to make, it was always her in it. It was the funniest shit. They were like, "Why the fuck does this all match with me?" So that was very amusing.
Yeah. I the one I was using is Blue Willow, which I believe just recently got acquired by LimeWire, which I didn't even know LimeWire was still around. I thought LimeWire was just for downloading illegal rips of CDs in 2005. But yeah, so that's interesting. But Blue Willow is pretty good. I always I always find the prompt that I like keep copy pasted is like 4K Zeiss lenses, cinematography, Roger Deakins kind of thing. Just like throw that in there, and it.
Fair. I think if for like a low effort type of generation, like if you don't want to really learn how, because with Midjourney, you need to understand some like which model you're working with and the quirks of how different models work, and there's a bunch of extra steps and how that you can change up to really get it to do what you want. But if you purely are just going after like let's just get something good and stuff, the DALL-E 3 integration with GPT models is really fucking good. Because you just tell it, hey, make a picture, and you say of an apple, and then it will write out the apple, and they will ask you, hey, do you want a green apple, red apple, do you not care, blah blah blah. And you can be like, well, actually I want it to be an apple on a table, I don't care what kind of wood, but I want it to have the spank banner in the background or something, and like you can kind of talk to it until it figures out what exactly kind of picture you want, or you can just tell it just figure it out yourself, and it makes versions.
Interesting.
And
okay.
it's very interesting. It's very interesting how the GP, like the LLM model, works together with you to get a very good prompt to then give DALL-E, which is like the image model, to actually generate something. So it's a very it gives a lot more of an interesting result because the LLM model is trained to understand what the fuck it's supposed to tell. DALL-E, which if you're starting with Midjourney and you tell it something like, I want a dog, it will do like a very shitty picture. Like, we'll do a dog, but it's not going to be very interesting. If you work with it adequately, you can get a lot of these models to do a lot better, which is quite cool, especially with the way DALL-E is now integrated. Input it gets directly from GPT is a lot more interesting.
Yeah. The other one I mess around is Full Journey, and that does video, or video. It's like 4 seconds of slightly moving clips. So I've done that kind of stuff, but
Yeah. Have you found yourself using it much for content, or have you just
I just kind of like as a few experiments, I guess. I asked GPT to write me like a truck commercial, like a script for like a narration for like a truck commercial, and then I tried to get Full Journey to make video to match that, and it was pretty good. It was funny at least. And then I just read it. I have tried to use like the AI voice simulators, but none of the free ones are very good, is what I found with that.
Yeah, because the cost of running a lot of these AI models is very expensive.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
you have it's to get to the good stuff. You have to be like paying for it, because they profit. Like they gotta be. The thing is, they don't profit. They still lose a ton of money, but they gotta be able to at least cover some of the costs somehow. But yeah, I've been using like Midjourney a ton, or like whenever I wrote an article about something, I would often use Midjourney to kind of create the images for it.
Yeah.
Because it would oftentimes when you write something or whatever, like you have an idea of what kind of picture you want linked to it, but trying to figure out how do you find that on Google. Like there was one where I wanted like a baby that was kind of half a robot sitting in front of a keyboard, staring into a monitor. But this is all out in a street where there's papers flying around. How the fuck do I Google that?
Yeah.
How do I Google that?
Exactly.
Like the fuck am I supposed to search for? But with like Midjourney, I would just I want this. This is the art style, and it just makes it. It's like so convenient.
Yeah. I found even Canva has if you have like Canva Pro, I guess they have like a pretty. I don't know if that's DALL-E or what that is, but they have an image generation.
Yeah, Canva integrates DALL-E. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
the one that's different from like DALL-E and Midjourney is Adobe has their Firefly model,
right,
which is very interesting because it integrates like properly with Photoshop.
Yep.
So you can tell it like it can. It's especially interesting with Illustrator because it can make very good vector graphics of stuff that would be an absolute pain to make by hand.
Yeah.
But then you can tell it to like recolor stuff, remake it, restyle it, and it's a lot more optimized for the kind of approach create like a creator or artist would be using if they were trying to use something in Midjourney or like that to actually make their stuff. So it's very interesting how like Adobe's model is just, I think in many aspects what it makes it's not as good in some like to what for something you get out of Midjourney, but the way it is more suited to then work with and the
like that was on 90-degree angle, so it's shooting in portrait mode, and then they just created the rest of the frame in Photoshop with the generative model. So
yeah.
And they just had to put up like a few simple lights, so you have a totally new set with no a little bit of startup cost, but you don't have to change sets all the time. So
yeah, I think those are especially interesting there's because with the green screen, there's like systems that will like a hardware piece which will mix which will cut out all the green screen, and it's like hardware based. It's actually very very fucking good at it. And then you can mix in whatever other video source you want to, and you can then kind of start to integrate stuff where it's a lot more dynamic, it's a lot more refined in the way. And it also like, because let's say if you right now want to kind of do your chroma key or green screen, there is always, when you just do it on a computer, it's like a little bit of an imperfection. You can kind of tell it's green screen, but some of this hardware is really fucking good at doing it and does it real time where you can like barely tell. So you can use it for like live broadcasts and it does it at insanely good quality. and it can replace everything. And like you can have these AI models be like, hey, here's a desk, so always put a desk there. Here's this, always put that there, and it just you could have like extremely dynamic models for this.
Yeah.
And like nowadays people are working on like 3D models even from these multimodal systems. And at that point, like you could have just like an entire studio just kind of move on the camera even
Yeah.
with tracking, and it would just work.
Yeah, it feels like filmmaking and stuff like that, and content creation is gonna. I mean, we're already seeing it, people on the forefront, but it's gonna start exploding. Like live video production is gonna start getting really, really incredible pretty soon. I mean, it's
What's most crazy is like if you like think back to 10 years ago, right? Like as a kid, when someone said, "Oh, AI will replace stuff," it was always AI will replace drivers, AI will replace like shopkeepers or something. But the artists and the creative people come last. And now it's like, no, motherfucker, you're the first out. Fuck off.
Yeah.
It's like all the artists are getting replaced first. Meanwhile, oh, you wanna drive a truck? Yeah, AI will fucking die.
Well, I think more than replacing all the artists, I mean, it's just it's that gives everyone the tools to be an artist. It's more, the tools have changed. You don't need to learn how to mix paint by hand anymore.
Yeah, but what I mean like replace artists, like it's the job of an artist ends up like diluted a lot into like a lot more people can do it now.
Yeah. Speaking of AI and artists, we still have the Screen Actors Guild strike here in LA, Hollywood, I mean all over the country. And it seems like the one point that the AMPTP will not budge on is they do want the rights to actors' likeness. We scan your body and we use...
It's a great deal, right, for them. Like, why would they be willing to give that up?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, they effectively wouldn't need that actor. I mean, they would have...
Yeah, it's like you have so many issues. Like, let's say, you have a movie and the actor dies. Something horrible happens. It's like, well, now that movie's going to shit. Or, let's not be as morbid. Let's say they just have a massive disagreement with the actor or whatever, and they just can't stay on this anymore. It's like millions of dollars wasted on a movie budget. Like, for them, from the investment into the movie side perspective, like,
yeah,
it makes perfect sense that they'd be like, no, fuck you, we're doing this, we want it.
Yeah, and I could even see it, like, if it was employed in that kind of way, if it was like the clause in the contract, like we'll have this, so if we need to fill in anything that if for any reason you leave the set or we need to do reshoots or whatever, like we won't call you back, we'll just fix it with this. I mean, depending on the situation, I guess, but it's like...
But what is a reshoot, right? If you shoot a 10-minute shot at them and then you can turn that by reshooting into a 3-hour movie.
I mean, that's true. See, that's why I personally think there should be some kind of limit to that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I could see it in a certain logical situations. There are rough sets. I was just watching a video about this. You remember the James Cameron movie The Abyss?
I've not seen many movies.
Okay, it was kind of his precursor to Avatar, essentially, and it's insane. It's an insane movie, but it was all filmed underwater. But yeah, it was a rough set. Ed Harris ended up punching James Cameron apparently, so I could see, like, in that kind of situation. I mean, obviously now a lot of things can be done in CG. I mean, we don't even really need AI, but I could see in something like that where it's like, I'm just leaving set. I'm not gonna do this.
Well, who was that actor that like murdered one of their people on set? Like, they were running some scene without the cameras rolling, and they just shot one of their people. They were like, I don't know.
I I have not heard that
Pretty,
story.
that's pretty recent. It was being a famous actor. It was like a big scandal.
It was Alec Baldwin in that new Western movie. Was that
Maybe?
it?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
He was.
I remember
It was the
about
director.
being like,
It was the director of photography, and the thing was he was supposed to point the camera straight down the barrel point the gun straight down the barrel of the camera, and it was not supposed to be loaded, and he pulled the trigger, and it was loaded. So that was
well, like it was supposed to be loaded, as in like it was an accident, or like you're saying like he did it on purpose. Because from her, because I don't actually know what ended up happening.
He claims
I don't see how you have a gun that's loaded.
He claims that he didn't know it was loaded. It was not supposed to be loaded. That's what he says.
How?
And this prop master, I guess, I can look it up, but I heard that this prop master has had problems before.
But how does that happen? How do you if you pick up a gun, you check if it's loaded. How do you?
Okay, I'm gonna pull up the article here. Rust prop master seeks dismissal from Alec Baldwin's countersuit over the fatal shooting. What? Hey, I don't know what's going on with this. They're still like hashing it out in court. This was as of last year, I guess.
Yeah, I just like you pick up a gun. Even if someone says it's clear, you check it.
Yeah,
it's an accident here. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, and it's such a weird situation. And she was a well-respected, well-liked director of photography, but it just seemed like the whole set was just not like they had already had a couple safety inspections, I guess, until that point.
Maybe you should just ban actors from having guns.
Yeah, probably. Dude, everybody in America is getting guns. Wants guns, has guns, getting guns.
Dude, I'm check. Like, if you tell me everybody wants a gun, I'll be like, good. Like, we have better gun rights than you guys.
But we have so many mass shootings.
And we're a European country. We're a European country. We have better access to guns than you guys do.
I mean, that's great. I mean, I'm happy for you, but we have so many mass shootings here. I mean, it's insane, the amount of shootings. I don't know.
That is true. Like, what happened? We're going on massive tangents here from spending too much time online.
That's fine.
But
that's perfect.
I just kind of, I don't know, like what, because I remember like hearing it like when I was a little kid, how like mental hospitals in the US are like, everybody, like it's very difficult to get out of one. What happened to them, right? Because like if your mental hospitals are so restrictive that it's like that you have an issue of too many people ended up in a mental hospital even when they're not supposed to, how do you then end up with people that are supposed to be in a mental hospital not being in one?
I don't know that our mental hospitals have ever been, or psychiatric hospitals at all. Here's a study from 2017. We have lost a lot of psychiatric hospitals apparently. I mean, our healthcare is not.
Oh,
not
if you guys shut them down, then fair enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are shutting down. The disappearance of long-term.
Why
care
are you shutting them
facilities,
down when you need more?
Because all of the money we have goes to selling weapons to Ukraine. I don't know. And not just Ukraine.
Well, if you're selling them, how do you lose money selling weapons?
Well, okay, all of our... I don't know what's happening. We're sending a lot of money to... We're sending a lot of taxpayer money to our military for some reason.
Wasn't there like a $10 billion or $5 billion accounting error where you sent them like a couple billion more than you're supposed to?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Thing is, a lot of... So this is... side note, because Czech Republic, Eastern European country, we have a lot of Eastern, old Soviet weapons.
Yeah.
One of the main ways you guys, well, not maybe, but like one of the big ways you guys are actually giving weapons to Ukraine is former Soviet countries give weapons that actually Ukraine knows how to work with
Right.
to Ukraine, and in exchange, you give us massive, I mean massive discounts on new ones from the US.
There we go. That sounds like
So,
us.
hey, I'm not going to complain about a bunch of F-35s for the price of, like, I don't even know.
You're not going to complain about an F-35? They're not great. They're how many dollars like $1 trillion to develop that plane, and it can't fly if it rains. Like, it's not great.
Hey, we have Gripen now. A big upgrade. You're looking at this from your America perspective. If every fucking fighter plane is so, one that doesn't fly while you're in the rain is a bad thing. I'm glad it can at least fly, dude.
I mean, I just don't see what was wrong with the F-15. It was great. It still works. Anyway. I know.
Right.
Anyway.
The radar crossplay, like the radar, like, come on.
No, it is cool that the F-35 can be stealth. It's like they just tried to make one plane for all of the military, and so like,
which is cool for small countries like us, where we can only support one kind of plane.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't made for you guys. You knew you were going to bring it to this little country in Central Europe called Czech Republic, who cannot have a bunch of different planes because we barely have 10, okay? We're happy with our 10, 12 planes.
Yeah. No, I
wait,
do.
Wait, I realized most aircraft carriers carry like 3 times that. Like, don't most aircraft carriers have like 30, 40 plane capacity?
Something like that.
That'd be fun. Yeah. The average aircraft carrier had like multiple times more planes than we own as an entire like fighter planes than we own as an entire country.
How many can it hold? How many? 64?
You guys, okay, you guys on a single carrier can carry more planes, like 6 times more planes than we probably even have. That is hilarious.
80 to 100 actually. 80 to 100 planes.
Okay, 8 to 10 times more.
Wow.
That sounds like freedom.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like big machines. I like big cars and trucks and stuff. Like, very cool. Why do we need? I don't know why we need this much. To be honest, like, I don't. But great. Yeah.
Because you can.
It's. Yeah.
Think about it. If you had $5,000 right now, and somebody was like, "Hey," and you don't need the $5,000. It's literally throwaway money.
Okay.
Someone came to you, and they were like, I have this GPU or GTX 3040, whatever the fuck we're up to, 90.
4090, yeah.
Right. 4090, sure. Is that actually how far we know?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. Here's a GTX 4090 for $2,000. Do you want it? Would you say no if $5 is literally nothing to you?
No, I would definitely.
You would want it, exactly. See. So why wouldn't you guys have that?
But
see, why are you having a different standard for your government?
We have billions of trillions of dollars apparently. Why don't we have healthcare? I mean, Canada does.
What do you mean healthcare? You have healthcare.
Well, no, we have healthcare. We have private healthcare. It costs $20,000.
So does Germany. So does Czech Republic. So does France. So do most countries in Europe.
But I don't want to pay for my healthcare. I don't want to pay $20,000 to have a child. I don't want to, I don't want to go into crippling medical debt.
That's a single payer issue. That's not a healthcare issue. Like, we also have mostly private healthcare, but we don't that's a payer structure issue.
Well, okay, that's
you do not want public healthcare. Like, UK has public healthcare, and it is atrocious. Like, I can't get a blood test. That's how bad it is. Wait lists for any doctor are like months and years. Like, people die on waiting lists. There's the people I've heard about, like some friends know somebody who, when they came into the doctor, they had like stage 1 cancer, by the time they actually got to see a professional for their first proper scan, it was stage 4. Literally, the slowness of the system killed them. The public health care is atrociously bad. Like, people die because of it.
Yeah. But
So,
yeah, okay. I guess what I mean then is I want a different pay structure for my healthcare, because I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because in America, people are dying because they can't afford health. I mean, like, they don't even see a doctor, you know. Or
At least, like, my view is, like, at least they have the potential, because here you don't. But, like, yeah, it's I personally like the European model, right? Because their insurance like health insurance is heavily regulated,
yeah,
so everybody can afford it, but it's still very much like everything else. Everything is private, because that's the only way it works well.
that, I mean, even that would make sense in America, and that would make sense, and it would. I think it would be a fairly. I mean, obviously, we've had our attempts at a different model, but you know, Obamacare just.
What, like,
Well, Obamacare.
I thought Obamacare was only for, like, specific people.
Well, it was eventually, it was kind of stripped down, but essentially,
okay.
it started as a copy of Massachusetts, you know, single payer model, or whatever, you know, the one that Mitt Romney put in, and yeah, you know, Republicans are just like, we're not going to vote for that, we're not letting it through, blah blah blah, and so it just got stripped down, and it's just like, yeah, now you have to have healthcare. We have open markets. Like, if you don't get insurance through your employer, you have to, or you don't have an employer, you have to get insurance on, like, this marketplace. But most states have their own, like, state-run healthcare. So here in Washington State, it's Apple Care or whatever.
Okay.
Apple Health. I guess I can't
But,
say
like,
Apple
then
Care.
Apple Care now for people.
Yeah, yeah. You go down to the Genius Bar, dude. Okay, I want to talk about that too. So, because you are in the European area, so
Yeah.
now the new right to repair thing with Apple products, so that if there's their device has an issue, they now have the option to rent the tools from a rental place, and the tool rental is some insane price, and the tools themselves weigh 70 pounds, and if you break,
Oh yeah, the tools are so over-engineered. It's so cool.
and it's
Beautiful.
and if
It's
you-
amazing. I love it so much.
if you break, you know, you're reliable. If you break your if you break any of the tools, you have to pay for that, which is like, okay, but yeah, they put in all the right to repair, but it's Apple's still trying to find the way around it.
The point of the right to repair is you can get the parts. Because the issue wasn't, oh, I can't get the tool. Like, everyone has their own tools. Like, nobody needs the tools from Apple. What people needed is get the board, get the fucking chips, get that stuff. And that becoming accessible was a major fucking win. Because, like, if you repair something, the fact that you don't have the right tool, fuck it, build it. Right? Like, there's ways around not having the right tool.
Yeah,
There isn't a way around not having the chip. So, I think it like, the main part of it was, right, being able to actually get the part. Like, because it used to be, like, I don't know, like iPhone 5S when it had, like, the Touch ID thing with the press on it.
right.
You couldn't get the part, right? Even if you somehow managed to get a part, it wouldn't work properly. They wouldn't integrate correctly because the actual encryption part of it wouldn't actually function.
Yeah, the DRM.
So the fact that the fact that with right to repair that now operates properly is the major difference. The tool to repair it, who cares, right?
Yeah, we don't have that in the US.
No, but you guys can still buy the parts
That's true.
because of Europe. It's now available in the US.
Yeah, and Apple will be switching to USB-C as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stoked for that. I love USB-C. I'm a big proponent.
Well, they already switched, didn't it? Isn't that from 14 with USB-C?
I think maybe the new one. I don't know.
Yeah, the new one, iPhone 15.
15, yeah.
Yep, that was USB-C. Nice.
So we've kind of come to the end of the hour, but I'm having so much fun. But is there anyone else, any other things or things you would, or people or creators or any other spaces you want to shout out or anything?
Any other stuff that I watch or consume? I can just like pull up my podcast and like go tell you about all that in there.
Well, yeah, please. I would like to at least write down your podcast so we can make sure we get that tagged and people know where to find you.
Oh, so I thought like the one I was gonna say the ones I listen to.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
sure. I'll tell you my podcast too.
All of that. All of it.
All of it. All right, all of it. So what do I listen to? How do I get it to just show me the podcasts? So what, like Spotify, I use it instead of what's it called? Instead of like a podcast because it lets me play back faster.
Yeah.
But it's a pain to try to fit stuff. There we go. Library and podcasts.
Yeah, I like having everything in my Spotify library, but
yeah.
And I also like Spotify has video podcasts now, which is cool.
Ah, fair. So there's one called Business Breakdowns by Colossus, which is really cool because it goes to like the financial stuff of businesses and stuff like that, which is very, very interesting for me. Like if you're into that, understand like balance sheets and shit and how to do it for your business and stuff, it's quite cool. There's one called Acquired, which is basically about like how the story of some business, like different businesses and how they end up getting acquired.
Interesting. Okay.
There's one called How to Take Over the World, which is just like histories of different people that did something made like some about Genghis Khan. There's Oppenheimer, like all these like very influential people and like major stuff they did.
Nice.
There's Deep Dive with Ali Abdaal, which I don't listen to that much, but occasionally interview some really interesting people. And generally, actually, Ali Abdaal is a very interesting example of how he worked with content, because he was originally in med school when he started.
Right.
And he ended up having and then he became a doctor. And as he was working as a doctor, his YouTube channel and all that was making him more money than he was getting paid as a salary as a doctor. So he ended up leaving medicine for a while, being like, I'll come back to it later. And eventually he just never did, and now he just kind of has small businesses running like out of his YouTube channel. And he's very much, because a lot of people when they businesses, they're like, let's grow it, let's scale it, let's go very far. But he's managed to build his businesses in a way where they support everything he wants to do, but it gives him like it's the kind of freedom that a lot of people talk about getting out of having kind of the medium-sized businesses. Because if you go too big, right, if my business is successful, it's going to be so much work just running it.
Right.
But the way he's kind of thought out scaling his businesses and going about it, he's like found that right equilibrium, what kind of lets him be really happy. So he's a very interesting example of restructure your businesses, especially as a creator. There's one called Big Shot, which is basically different Jewish entrepreneurs that have been very successful, and their stories, because a lot of those are not people that really do interviews and stuff.
Right.
So it's very, very interesting to hear. There's, since we talked about tech, I'm sure you'll know this. There's the When Show. Again, I wouldn't ever listen to it, but occasionally it's interesting, so it pops up there. There's one called Strike It Big. It's actually a guy who's originally started. So he had like a toy store, but his way to content started with talk, and he's this older guy who was making like a lot of content there, and occasionally has some very interesting interviews. So it's Mark Tilbury. So Strike It Big. There's the Iced Coffee Hour by Graham Stephan. I feel like a lot of people know Graham. Again, he actually has a very interesting repertoire of guests, because he's not someone who really does politics or anything like that. He basically, most of his content is just like personal finance and stuff like that. But on his like Ice Coffee Hour podcast, he's interviewed people like very, very, very right wing and people who are like very, very, very left wing, both extremely controversial. Somehow he's just kind of having these very different conversations with them than I feel like almost anyone has, and it makes for very interesting interviews. And yeah, that's one that's like very interesting the way he kind of gets out of his guests. There's a what is this? Oh, okay. So this is somebody that actually also originally kind of started his content journey through TikTok. It's called the Really Ray Podcast, which horrible fucking name. But he occasionally does interviews with some very interesting people. Again, most of them not that interesting, but occasionally there's something quite good. Same with Huberman Lab. Like I occasionally listen to something there's something specific, but not too much. I think everybody knows Huberman Lab. That's kind of universal. Oh, this yellow circle with two guys logo. It's Colin and Samir. They interview a lot of like YouTube people, and it's very, very interesting. Like the perspectives on content, we can kind of learn about it for the marketing perspective is really cool. Tim Ferriss, everybody knows it. I don't do Tim Ferriss much, but occasionally, again, there's something interesting. What else is here? Alex Hormozy has a podcast that I don't really listen to much, but he put out one of his books, the audiobook of it, as just podcast episodes that you could go through, because he was like, fuck Audible, I'll put it out this way.
Yeah.
So that's why I follow that, because I'm going through the audiobook. And that's mostly it. There's like some like random little things that I haven't listened to in ages. The only thing left in there is my podcast then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a lot of great stuff. Thank you for all that. I mean, yeah, I find myself like on like 2 or 3 different podcasts, but I know there's just so many out there. I'm sure I could be doing more. I try and find like kind of comedy podcasts. That's one of the podcasts I do or have been doing for a while is kind of like centered on that. So find myself in there, but
what are your favorite podcasts?
So one is just a bunch of Twitch streamers that I follow, and they happen to have a podcast together. It's Fear and which is, it's pretty chill. It's just great kind of second screen content. And I don't know if you ever watched the show Psych, but I used to like that show a lot. And they now have a Psych rewatch podcast with 2 of the cast of the show, and they have people on from the show and things like that. Very cute. But kind of interestingly with them, since the actor strike, they haven't been watching the podcast. So like, well, we can't, part of this negotiation is specifically about the residuals from streamers, streaming sites. So we're not going to talk about the show anymore. So now they just talk about whatever and going to the picket lines and stuff like that. So that's pretty fun. I like a lot of stuff like that. That's kind of like the insider Hollywood stuff. Another one I listen to is Fly on the Wall, which is David Spade and Dana Carvey from SNL, obviously. So they have people on who are tangentially related to Saturday Night Live and just talk about the show or whatever, which is kind of cool to hear it from them and kind of hear those stories. I don't know, what are some other ones? Fingers on Buzzers, that's a funny one. Where's my podcast? Yes, podcast and show. I don't even know. I can't see any other ones on there, but
Fair. Because content with like podcasts and stuff. Are you someone that wants to like more follow the journey of like take that into traditional media route, or are you someone that's you want to build that out into like an online media content empire? if in the ideal world.
I mean, I think ideally I'd like it to be. I mean, it would probably be mostly online. I don't really see myself moving into traditional media, but I like to. I like to kind of understand traditional media, I guess. I like to. I mean, I do like watching movies and TV a lot, so kind of seeing how those shows are put together and using, if I can use some kind of lesson or something about making my own stuff. I have this other podcast that I do with my friend Joey. He kind of built a studio he's a business owner. He owns a pizza shop, and he had this basement and he wanted to do a podcast. So I said, well, I'll help you put together a studio. So he built.
Please tell me that studio is in front of the pizza oven. I would love to see a studio where the background is like a proper nice, like classic Italian pizza
would be really cool. Unfortunately, he's got this huge stone wood fire pizza oven. I mean, it would be beautiful to do it there. I'm just saying, like, it's in the middle of the restaurant, so I just don't think it's totally tenable.
Why don't you record once it closes? Because, like, do you record while it's running or once it's closed?
We record when it's closed, or like.
Yeah, so you could because you can take like C stands or whatever, like dangling on it. So you put it on the sides that's not visible on the camera, and in the background would be this beautiful pizza oven.
I mean, that would be cool. That's a good
idea. And you can have it running, so you can see a little bit of fire in the background. It'd be beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, because he knows a lot of other pizza chefs and stuff. Like, I think it'd be really cool to do like a pizza podcast with the pizza.
Oh, and they could then what they could do as you do the intro, they're finishing up like doing the pizza. They throw it in the oven.
Yeah.
Then they go introduce themselves, and you guys pizza. And it's like the theme of it is that you can eat the pizza during the podcast, and as soon as the pizza's finished, the podcast's finished.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. I'm writing that down. We'll talk about it. But he did have this purpose-built space with a beautiful art piece put in there. But
fair.
But anyway, what I was saying was that podcast, my other comedy podcast, and this podcast, plus my Twitch stream and YouTube. I'm trying to build towards like a maybe not an empire, but a small hill of online content.
So the Mount Everest of content. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. That's. So yeah, would you like to shout out your own other podcasts?
Yeah, sure. I always forget to do like shout outs and stuff.
No, that's fine.
I usually just rely on people googling me. But the podcast is QUAN number 2M. It's called Quantum. But you can just Google me, just Allison, man. It just pop up as like the first 10, 12 results. So I've got unique enough name that I've got the entire thing occupied.
Okay.
So
nice.
Either one works.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I mean, this has been great, and thank you for just coming on. Even though I've literally done this podcast, the first episode we did yesterday, and today's the second episode. So.
That was good fun.
I appreciate it, and once I have everything figured out, we'll do it again sometime, and it will be less messy, I guess. I don't know. Oh, and I'll be in Germany in June, so if you want to hang out,
alright,
we'll meet up.
In Germany by chance, we'll see. But
yeah.
All right, thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, and yeah.
Okay, and now it needs to finish uploading.
Okay.
2 seconds until mine is done, and apparently 2 hours until yours is uploaded.
Great. Okay. So well, that's fine.
Once that's done, so you have to stay in there, so it doesn't. But I think it lets me leave, and then I'll just email you. But yeah, this is good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, thanks. But yeah, leave the tab open, otherwise it won't finish uploading. So yeah, and I'll email to you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, well, we're here alone. Thank you, chat. Thank you for being here. Snappa Palace, I did see you. Sorry if it felt like I was ignoring you just in the middle of a podcast. Thank you for coming back, Snappa Palace. Yeah, and that was it. Episode 2 in the can. Allison, thank you for your time. And guys, I don't think we're going to be doing another podcast until after TwitchCon, so get excited for that one. I will probably be streaming tomorrow night, maybe not Wednesday night. Okay, maybe Wednesday night. You got me. We're gonna do it Wednesday night for sure. But okay, I gotta end the stream because it's this is gonna take 2 hours. So we will see you later.